Anyway, without any further ado, excited to have Coach Mike Denbrock again, offensive coordinator at Cincinnati, with us. Coach has been on the sidelines for over 30 years, and with recent stops at Notre Dame, Indiana State, and Washington. And we were just talking about Grand Valley as well, and among other places. But Coach will be speaking on how to prepare your offense during game week and keys to building a call sheet. And thanks again for attending coordinator school this week, and we have several sessions throughout the week. But really excited that you're joining us, and excited, Coach Denbrock, that you'll be speaking today. Really excited to have you. So looks like you're up, and Coach, real again, appreciate you speaking to us today, and looks like everything's up and you're good to go. The floor is yours.
Alan, thanks a lot. And, thanks everybody that's joined us. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to fellow coaches and fellow guys that are going through the same wars that we're fighting here at the University of Cincinnati every day. And what I'm going to talk about today more than anything is just kind of the process that I've developed over the years of kind of how to prepare not only our football team, but have the coaches all kind of thinking in the same direction, kind of moving in the same direction, that we're kind of one mind while we're going through the process of building a game plan. And just talk some of the ins and outs and the details involved in that, and just what our process is in particular here. But I'm proud to represent the University of Cincinnati football program. We've been fortunate over the course of the last 3 years to have some pretty good success. We're looking for more, just like you guys are, trying to find those inches, trying to find those things that are going to make a difference and push us a little bit farther down the road. And, this whole COVID thing that all of us have been dealing with has been difficult on everybody that's in the coaching profession. Number one, because we can't have the same, or haven't had the same access to the players that all of us love so much, and the ability to kind of touch their lives as much as we've wanted to. I wish back when this whole thing started, I'd have bought stock in Zoom and some of the other things that are going on out there as a way to meet with people and be somewhat face to face, even though virtually, because that's been really the lifeblood and the savior in a lot of situations. And now that more and more of us are back in school, and obviously we were able to get a season in, although at different times during the year it was interrupted abruptly, and you're hanging on every test. We were testing 3 times a week, and who are we going to have this week? Who we're not going to have this week? Who's going to be involved? Who's not going to be involved? And all that craziness that we all lived through. Good Lord willing, I know everybody out there has prayed about it as much as I have. That this is showing signs of being behind us, and we get a chance to go back and really do and dig in to what we love. But in the meantime, this has been an incredible way for me and my staff here at Cincinnati, and I'm sure for your guys' staffs too, to kind of dig into what other people are doing and see it, whether it's through the Glazier clinics and through some of the different things that Alan has that you guys could utilize, or other forums where people have gotten together and just talked about football and the freedom of ideas and the flow of information. I don't think has ever been better in our profession. Mainly because I think most of us were probably like me, cooped up in the basement and trying to get away from my wife for 5 minutes and just get back into football. And now that we're actually in spring football here at Cincinnati, it's a chance to be back out on the field and doing what we love. So we're in spring football here at Cincinnati. We're hoping that if things continue to trend in a positive direction, actually our spring game and things like that are going to be open to the public. And if you ever get down Cincinnati way and you're interested in checking out a practice or coming by and seeing us, we practice in historic Nippert Stadium, which is kind of right outside my window. And it's an open air stadium, and it's open to the public. So if you're in Cincinnati and we happen to be practicing, you're more than welcome to come by and see what we do and how we do. if there's any follow-up questions or anything anybody's got, I'm sure there's a way that you can get in touch with me. And I know at the end of what we do here, we're going to have an opportunity to answer some questions too. So I'm going to cover some things that we do in our process here, getting ready for a football game, and then we'll go from there. At the University of Cincinnati here, we kind of have a theme that we go by offensively, and it's, our colors are red and black, and so offensively, our defense is kind of coined the phrase black cat defense. So we came up with a way offensively to kind of do something similar, and I'm sure you guys do something along those lines as well. But it's Cincinnati's Code Red offense. So the Code Red, the R in the red stands for relentless. We want to be relentless offensively in everything we do. We want to be up on our toes, attacking people. We want to play, what we call a style of tough and nasty football, where we're, built around the run game and that physical type of football that everybody loves to play. We're big on that here. That's a kind of a mantra of ours that we kind of go by. We're located in the city of Cincinnati in a little section of it called Clifton, and we call it Clifton style tough and nasty Cincinnati football. So that's the red. That's the R in the red. The E is for explosive, and just as a theme, we want to make sure that our guys are thinking that way in everything that they do, that they carry themselves that way. When plays are there to be made, that they're stepping up and doing the things necessary to get those plays made. So that's where kind of the explosiveness, or the E, comes in red. And then the D is for discipline, which is something we took steps forward in last year, as far as limiting penalties. And really what we talk about with that more than anything is limiting the bad things that lead to losing and not having success offensively, whether those be sacks or turnovers or, minus yardage plays and things like that, penalties, things that go to you not being successful. And we use a little index with that we call the Play Clean Index, or the PCI, that we track with our football team offensively in all the team sessions that we do, or anytime we get into a competitive situation against the defense. And we want to be 12% or less when it comes to how clean we're playing as an offensive unit. So that's just a little bit about us, just a little bit of background about it. As Alan mentioned, I've been blessed in this profession to be able to be on some really, really good staffs over the years, with some really good coaches. And a lot of this stuff that I'm going to share is stuff that I've either borrowed from them, stole from them, or picked up from somebody else along the way to help me make my process and help refine it. It continues to this day. I mean, even though I've been doing this a couple years, I've learned probably and grown as much as a coach over the course of this pandemic, and having a chance to kind of pick other people's brains and being on sessions where we talked about certain things and just grown myself. And I think that's an important aspect for all of us as coaches. Continue to stay in there, continue to grind. Never believe that you got this game all figured out. There's always things that we can all be better at, and that's kind of how I've tried to live throughout my profession, and hopefully that's borne itself out to be true. But let's talk a little bit about where we go from here. So I want to get into the PowerPoint here just a little bit, and these are some thoughts that I just wrote down in particular, just coming from me as I'm going through my process and kind of preparing myself for the next week's opponent. These are some things that I kind of get into from a thought process standpoint, and things that I think are important as you build yours. First off, there's no one right way. What your philosophy is offensively, I think, is the guiding force. Who you are as a football team, what you believe in as an offense, as a defense, as a football team. I think that guides it. But everybody has their own little ways of doing their plan, and different things that you can do to kind of emphasize the areas that are important or most important to your football team in particular, whether that's throwing the ball 50 times, whether that's running the ball 50 times, whatever that happens to be. But you got to do what works for you and your staff, number one, and you got to kind of build your process around that. That's that's something that I think is really, really vital and important. Secondly, for me in particular, I'm not a big stat guy. And listen, nobody likes to score 50 points in a game more than me. And that's the goal every week. That's what we're trying to get to. But what trumps that more than anything is really, what do we have to do to win the game? As we sit down as a staff and we start to look at this, and all of us have, some familiar opponents that we know, maybe they're really explosive offensively of their own right. And, you may have to match point for point with what they're doing. That's going to have some bearing on how you set up your game plan. Maybe they're not as able to score as many points, or your defense is outstanding and they're going to kind of hold them down. How does that play into it? And, winning as a football team, how many points do we need to slow down? Do we need to go fast? Is this a team we don't match up that well against? We have to use shifts and motions and stacks and clusters and different things in the passing game and the running game to give our guys a chance. I think all of that kind of feeds into this as well. So, that comes in where, what do we need to do to win the game? Whatever that happens to be, if we score one more point, I'm the happiest guy to be around on Saturday night. And if that's not the case, then I'm not very fun to be around. So winning is what trumps it all. And what do we need to do on our side of the ball offensively for us to play team football and for us to win? And the points will come, the rushing yards will come, the passing yards will come, all that stuff will come. And maybe you won't lead the nation because you're not flinging it 75 times a game. But you may go undefeated. You may win a conference championship. You may get into a major bowl game. And those are the things in particular that are the goals, are more team oriented around here than offensive stats, although we've been very successful with what we've done here. Second, next in the kind of list of things that go through my mind is, I want to establish as quickly as I can when we start watching tape, what is their base defense? How do they fit the run? Are their linebackers aggressive downhill guys? Are they floaters? Are they, taking on blocks? Are they floating around blocks? What's their base coverage? Are they quarters based? Are they split safety? Are they one high safety? All those types of things. And then I think another piece to that I'll get into a little bit more as we go, but I think another piece of that is, what problems do they present us from a scheme standpoint, number one, and then number two, are there individual players on their defense that are issues? We've got here an outstanding field defensive end who's a really, really dynamic athlete, good pass rusher. If we go into a scrimmage situation and I don't have a plan for that guy, I'm not giving our guys the best opportunity to be successful. So that's really what it stems from. Is there a safety that is a problem? Is there a corner that's really good in bump and run? And, how do we help our guy get off the bump? And what do we do? And things like that. So what do we need answers for offensively from a scheme standpoint based off of what their base is and what they're trying to get done on the defensive side of the ball, whether that's run game, pass game, or protections. And then I think secondly, where does their personnel fit in? Where are their strengths? What do we need to make sure that we are, if we feel like we've got a mismatch somewhere, what are we doing to kind of help that guy? And so that's a big piece of it as well. So next would be, what next would be in my thought process, kind of moving to, okay, what personnel are we going to use and what formations are best against how they defend? And, every defense is a little different. They've all got their little nuances. There's certain formations where people have trouble defending certain things. And you need to kind of go through the Rolodex of how they line up defensively and the things that they like to do and try to find the formations that fit your game plan the best for what they do. So, where are their weaknesses? What do they have trouble defending? Do we need to use, bunches and stacks and clusters as unbalanced part of the game plan? This is all going on in my brain as we start to kind of prepare for opponents. Is formation sideline something we need to utilize this week? Do we need to get more speed on the field? Do we need to get bigger? Do they not play with three linebackers? Do they play with a little nickel guy that we need to beat up a little bit? How that all fits together, I think, from not only from a personnel standpoint offensively, but what you're going to do formation wise and kind of the cohesion between those two areas in particular, I think is pretty vital. And then I think the last part, and I kind of hit on this about from our perspective offensively, are there guys that are issues on their defense that we need to have answers for? Well, who on their defense, and lastly, last thought, who on their defense can we go after? How are their safeties and coverage? Where's their weak links? What matchups do we need to create? And how do we create those? How do we get in formations or create with motion matchups to get our guy doing something against a guy that we feel like he's going to beat in a number of situations. And, as you're looking through the tape and you're going through different cut-ups and kind of making your plan, find their weaknesses and then make sure you're doing your game plan is specific in how you're going to attack the weaknesses that they show you that they have. And, unfortunately, sometimes like we were in the bowl game where we played Georgia, that was a little bit harder task than it is at other times. But there's always something there if you look hard enough, long enough, and deep enough into what they do that you can kind of hopefully turn the tables back in your favor and give you an advantage. So I wanted to break down for you a little bit about what our process looks like. And I've kind of developed this based off of our schedule. When I went through and kind of thought through this, this would be, and the reason I've got Sunday up there, this would be after a Saturday game. So let's say we've just played the game on Saturday afternoon and, obviously, hopefully we're all celebrating Saturday night and what happens the next day. So that's why I've got Saturday kind of in parentheses there in case there's, a number of high school guys on the call. If you guys are playing on Friday, then this would be kind of the way we would approach a Saturday for you, a Sunday for us, if that makes sense. So, the players for us are going to report in the afternoon. I'm going to ask our coaches, our staff to have the last game graded and ready to go by around 11 o'clock on Sunday for us. So they're going to individually, they a lot of them take their iPads home or whatever, and our film is loaded on there and they get an opportunity to kind of do that. If you don't, that's fine too. It's obviously everybody's got different ways that they can go about getting this accomplished, but I want to have them try to have a chance themselves to look at the game film and kind of give themselves a grade on how they feel like their kids did and how we did as a staff in our preparation, just individually. And I think what it does more than anything, and this is a responsibility I feel like I have as a coordinator, I want to help bring the guys on our staff along as much as I can. And I want them eventually to be sitting in my seat. And I hope that's their goal. And I hope that's what they want to accomplish. And what it does kind of is allows them some free thinking and some ability to kind of point at things that they don't feel like we did as well as we needed to do. And we want to talk about those things as a staff. And like I said, when you're working through your own process, there's no one right way to do it. And I don't feel like I've got the corner market, no matter how long I've been doing this, on being perfect about how I prepare our team and doing everything the right way. If there's a better way, I want to find what it is. And I don't care where the idea comes from. And I don't care whose idea it is. I just want to do what I can to help our kids win football games. So if the idea comes from one of the other coaches or the preparation wasn't what it should have been, I want them to take notes on that as they watch the film. I want to sit down as a staff and kind of talk through it. Next, we would kind of get together as an offensive staff and we would review the things that I thought in the game we needed to have a full staff discussion about. And everybody knows, right? If it's an effort thing, everybody kind of sees that. If it's a situation where they got us in a blitz, where our protection was not, the right way, or the back misread the protection scheme or who he was responsible for or something like that, the problems that came up during the game I want to make sure that we address those in offensive staff. Sometimes we'll watch the entire game together. That's probably a little more rare than it is where I'll just go in and make an individual cut up of the things that I thought were issues that we need to make sure we address moving forward, because you guys know as well as I do, once a defense sees it on tape, it's like sharks smelling blood in the water. You're going to see it again and again and again until you have an answer for it. So I want to try to attack those things and get that stuff discussed as a staff, and get some answers and get some decisions made about what we're going to do moving forward where those things come up. So we'll review the game again as an offensive staff, and then we sit down as an offensive staff and we meet with the head coach. So Coach Fickle will come in. We'll discuss what happened in the game. I'll go through with him what I felt like the good things, with the positives, the negatives, the things that we feel like we needed to address as an offensive staff. He'll have a pad full of notes as well that we'll kind of talk through. That's kind of Coach Denbrock's report card for the week. And sometimes, quite frankly, it's not pretty, and it needs to be addressed. So we want to get all that stuff done the day after the game, so that once we watch it with the players, we can kind of put that stuff to bed and we can move on. We choose to meet the day after the game, and I know a lot of you guys probably bring your players in the day after the game, where we have a unit meeting where Coach Fickle will address the team basically as an entire football team and talk about the game as an overall theme. Then we'll meet as an offensive unit, and we'll address the things as an offensive unit that I feel like from the coordinator's perspective that need to be addressed, whether those are positive or negative. And we use a little phrase around here that the kids love for the positive things. If you make an explosive play or a touchdown block where you've really gotten after somebody, or our offensive lineman has got somebody buried and he's grinding on him, things like that, kind of the extra effort plays, if you will. We call those bag season plays. And the kids love it. It's way beyond, obviously I'm too old to know what bag season probably really represents. But the point of the matter is it's another theme where they can really get behind it. And I throw them a candy bar if they made a bag season play. So we'll review those things, and then we'll go through the ugly stuff too, and just make sure that moving forward, we've got all that stuff cleaned up. On Sunday, we'll also, or the day after the game, we'll also make a plan. We'll actually go out and practice. So what we'll do in that practice is pretty limited. We'll have maybe 3 or 4 periods of individual time where you can just kind of get the soreness out of your guys and get them moving around a little bit. We'll do a 7-on-7 against the defense. That's kind of no harm, no foul. There's no collisions. There's nothing like that going on, but getting the guys out and moving and running and getting the blood flowing through the muscles, I think is a way to kind of help them kind of bounce back and kind of get their minds back into football, whether we had success on Saturday or we didn't, or whether you had success on Friday or you didn't, good or bad, a chance to kind of put the game to bed and move on. And then we do kind of a team cleanup session where those things that we saw on tape that needed addressing, that we did address, we'll actually walk through those things on the field and give our guys a chance to not only see it on tape and have us teach it and correct it, but we'll actually walk through those things on the field to try to clean it up. Once that's done and the kids get dinner and kind of get out of here, for us in particular, Sunday night is kind of my night with the staff to kind of watch full games. So I like to start that way personally. I like to start watching full games of our opponent that we're going to play against, so that I can kind of sequence my mind as to and try to feel the rhythm of the defensive coordinator that I'm going to be going against. And this next slide is going to talk a little bit about that as well, but I think it will. Sorry, here we go. So our Sunday, Saturday film study stuff after the kids are gone, and this is just the offensive staff now in the room. We're going to do some of the things that I talked about that I've already kind of started the process in my mind of identifying the structure of the opponent's defense, from the front. What do they like to do up front? What do they like to do in the back end? Are they a big blitz team? Are they, what's their movement patterns? Do they like to move the front? Do they like to bring pressure? Uh, you know, what are their adjustments to certain formations? I want to get a feel, as I mentioned, for the defensive coordinator, and what are his kind of? Does he have any tendencies? Does he, if you hit an explosive play, does he bring pressure the next play? Things like that I think are, I get stuck in my mind, and it kind of gives me some understanding about the flow that the defensive coordinator calls the game by watching full games. It's also an opportunity for us, I think, to kind of get an idea in our minds, in particular, of their personnel, where we feel like we need to attack them and things like that before we ever get into formation cutups and game plan and those sort of things. And during this time, this is kind of a free flow of information session with our offensive staff. Our coaches are all encouraged to talk out loud, and they're all writing notes, and we're all kind of exchanging ideas. And what do you think about this here? And if we're going to run inside zone here, we better tag this call on it. And if we're going to do this, run this RPO, we better make sure we condense this split, because it's going to give us, a corner with outside leverage because we want to run a skinny post, or whatever the case may be. All that process is just beginning of thoughts that we want to make sure are inserted at some point into the game plan. It's just kind of the beginning phase of that, if you will. Okay, so and when we're doing that film study in particular, we're trying to start with the opponents, obviously, that they've played, that run similar styles of offense that we do. So, obviously, if we're not a big split back veer team, but if I was a split back veer guy, I'd want to watch other teams, hopefully, that ran the split back veer, so I could see how they want to defend those things. And if they're more of a spread offense like we are, that believes in the run game and throws play action and does those things, and I want to make sure those are the things that we're paying as close of attention to as we can, especially in the beginning of formulating the game plan. So there's not much going on there as far as putting stuff on the board yet. All of this is more in an effort for everybody to kind of be in the room, see what they're doing, have an idea of the base way that they like to play defense, and then attacking it from there. So next for us would be Monday, or maybe 2 days after the game, if you will. We're mandated to give our guys a day off. So that's Monday for us. Could be a Sunday for you if you happen to play on Friday, if you follow a similar schedule, if you have to give guys day off, or if you choose to do that or not. But that's a day off for us. And what that gives us an opportunity to do offensively is spend the whole entire day game planning. And so we will be, pretty much sequestered in a room together from 7 a.m. in the morning till whenever we get done at night on Monday. And that's kind of the big deal. The other thing that happens on Monday, having kind of had a prelim of what it looks like defensively and what we feel like we can accomplish against the defense that we're playing, the head coach and both coordinators, so the offensive coordinator, myself, and our defensive coordinator, the three of us will basically sit down together and kind of talk about what I outlined in some of the opening remarks that I made about, what do we need to do to win the game? What is it going to take for us to be successful against this team? And like I said, we win and lose as a football team here. So if we need to slow down and grind it out and 13 play drive it, that's what we're going to do to keep our defense protected and keep them off the field, especially if they're a high scoring offense. If we feel like it's a team we can go attack and hey, I'm not worried about all that. We're going to score as many points as we possibly can. That all comes from my boss, Coach Fickle. And we talk about those things as coordinator and head coach, and kind of make a plan before we ever start putting anything on the board about what this game is going to look like and how we want the game to be played. Now, we all know, obviously, you can make as many plans as you want. When all hell breaks loose and the ball gets kicked, You got to be able to adjust and do what you need to do. But that's in essence what we, if we had our druthers, the game would play out the way we have it planned each and every time. So from there, we'll go into an offensive staff meeting. So that coordinator meeting will be about 6:30 a.m. or so. I'll have the offensive staff here by 7, and we'll go basically. If I feel like, I just still don't have what I want from having watched full games, I may watch one more game, or maybe two, whatever I feel like I need to get comfortable with what they're doing. But we'll finish the full game review, and then we'll begin getting into formation cutups. And what we do is really concentrate, obviously, and when we get our opponent's film, we'll cut the film up into our formations that we use, and then we want to put those on and look through them and slowly make our plan out of each formation about what we're going to be doing running the ball, what we're going to use RPO wise, what we're going to do in the passing game out of that formation. What screens do we want, if we want any, out of that formation? And not everything's going to be done out of every formation, but the idea being certain teams have trouble defending certain formations just based on the structure of their defense. And we want to make sure we're highlighting the formations that give us the best opportunity. So while that process is going on, what we're doing is basically making the beginnings of our call sheet. And what I have in our offensive staff room, and I meant to make a picture of this, and I apologize for not doing that, but hopefully I can describe it the right way. But what we have in our offensive staff room is basically a grease board or a dry erase board that's probably 9 feet long and 9 feet. I mean, probably not 9 feet high. Well, I have to stand on a little step ladder, so it's pretty tall. I'd say it's 8 feet high at least and 9 feet long, and that becomes a working call sheet for us during the week. So what we'll do is write the formation. Right, the formation is on the board, whether that's a 2x2 detached, whatever you call it. We call it double. Let's say double right. What do we want to run out of double right? So here's the run game in black ink. Here's the pass game in red ink. Here's screens in green ink. Here's whatever. So each formation will have runs, passes. If there's any play action we're going to run, is there any screens we're going to run, draws, whatever, all of that will be included under that formation. And basically that, as the week goes along, becomes a working call sheet for all the different formations that we're going to use against the opponent that we're playing against. So it could be, all our 2x2s, all our 3x1s, is it 12 personnel? Is it 11 personnel? What are we going to use against these guys, and what formations are we going to use? Let's list the plays that we feel like will be effective against these guys. And that's kind of where the coordinator comes in and kind of makes some final decisions on, well, I don't really like that, and here's why. I kind of like that, and here's why I do like it. And ideas are flying from, run game ideas are coming from the wide receiver coach at times, and I love that. That's how it should be. We're all in the room at the same time. We're all speaking the same language at the same time. Whatever adjustments or corrections need to be made, we're making those, I'm making those, so that everybody, when we start to really put this plan together, understands the little nuances that have to change from week to week, because we've all sat in the same room, we've all got the same information. So we'll begin our formation cutups, and what we're really focusing on Monday more than anything is our first and second down plan. Okay, so we're not focused on red zone. We're not doing anything with goal line. We're not doing anything with backed up against our own end zone, any of that stuff. We're really thinking of what we would call the green zone, which is from our -20 to their +20, or wherever their red zone defense starts. That would be what we're trying to get our base run, base pass game plan done on Monday. And that's really what we're focused on. I personally like to start with 12 personnel. We're a 12 personnel team, probably about 45% of the time. And I like that because I think it makes defenses kind of show their hand a little bit. And not everybody runs even any 12 personnel. So again, whatever your process happens to be to fit who you are and what you're doing, don't worry about what we do, but that's how I like to do it, because I think it makes defenses kind of show their structure as quickly as you can identify it with 12 personnel in particular, and how they're going to defend the run in particular is where we're going with a lot of that. So we're trying to get first and second down on Mondays and get all that stuff taken care of, and all that stuff put on the board out of all those formations. And we haven't touched third down. We haven't touched red zone. We're not worried about any of that stuff yet. We're just doing our base first and second down run and pass. The other things that we'll try to get done on Monday, is making sure our protections are the way we want them. Do we need to do anything special there? Are there checks that need to be made? One of my favorite things, and I make sure we do this on Mondays at some point too, is, our GAs make up a blitz cut up of different defenses that we see. So we need to make sure we go through the blitz cut up so that the quarterback coach and I'm the tight end coach, so I'm not in the quarterback room. So me and the quarterback coach, the offensive line coach, we're all on the same page about how we're going to protect certain looks, certain blitzes, certain things that they like to do. So we go through the blitz cut up for sure. We try to design whatever trick plays we want to insert in what we're doing, what shot plays we want to take, make sure our protections, as I said, are on point, screens, that sort of thing. Do we want to use tempo or not? And some of that is dictated by the coordinator meeting that I had earlier with the head coach and the defensive coordinator. They may not want us to go fast. They may need us to give them a chance to make some adjustments, and that may adjust and change during the game, which it has many, many times, depending on how we're doing defensively. I may have to alter what we're doing offensively to make sure we fit together as a football team. So these are the things with the first and second down passes, these things in particular that we want to make sure when we turn the lights off and go home on Monday night, that these things are on the board and ready to roll. So our Tuesday or your Monday, right, if you played on Friday, kind of look like this. So we bring the kids in early in the morning, which would be before school for you guys. It's before school for us as well. We'll present to them the base run and pass plan that we went through on Monday and put together on the board. So we have ready sheets available for the players. We'll give them those. They also have access through their iPads here of all the film that we put together for them, and we'll make cut-ups for them and different things like that. I know that's a lot for some people, but as much information as you can feed them, we do. And so we get together and meet in the morning, go through the base run and base game plan with run and pass with them. Any thoughts that we have for them that we need to make sure we get them, and then after that, we'll have a staff meeting where we talk about practice. In the fall, we practice in the afternoons. So we'll go through that, making sure the practice plan's ready to roll. And then we'll finish, if we have to, any first and second down things that may be lingering. You know how it is, right? You write something on the board and it seems like a hell of a great idea. And you go home and the 4 or 5 hours of sleep that you get, you're tossing and turning because something just doesn't sit right. You get back in on Monday and you're like, man, what was I didn't have enough coffee in my system or something, because that doesn't seem like as good an idea as it did yesterday. Let's strike that off or whatever. And then we'll start on Tuesday afternoon before we get to practice time, and we'll start our third down plan. Okay, so we break our third down down into 3 different units. So we start with third and long, which for us would be 7 to 10. And then third and medium, which would be 4 to 6, and then third and short. So we'll at least get third and 7 to 10 done on Tuesday before we go to practice, even though Tuesday in practice, there's not going to be anything to do with third down going on. Okay. So once we get a chance to get our scripting done and all that stuff done, we'll be ready for our base first and second down stuff that we went over with them in the morning. That will be all that's included in practice in the afternoon on Tuesday. Okay. And Tuesday's a pretty good get after it for us. It's a good 2-hour practice where we're going after it pretty good. We'll have a short position meeting beforehand, practice, dinner, and then after dinner, we'll get back together as the offensive staff. Obviously, we'll grade the practice tape. We'll look for any issues. We'll throw things out. And I will mention this about the dry erase board that we have that has the workings of a call sheet on it that's beginning. anything that I decide to throw out or we as a staff collectively decide to get rid of after a practice or before a meeting or whatever, I just get up and I draw a line through it and I leave it on the board so that everybody in the room understands that was an idea, but it's been eliminated when it's got a line through it. But we leave that stuff up there just as a reference point. So after we get done with the practice tape and that sort of stuff, we finish our third down plan. So if we got through third and long, we'll jump on third and medium. We'll get that kind of button down. We'll jump on third and short. We'll get that kind of button down, hopefully, as long as it doesn't get too late in the evening. So that's our kind of our Tuesday schedule for us. Our Wednesday schedule is very much the same in the beginning. We don't have morning meetings, okay? So we have a get together as a staff, obviously, to go over practice schedule. We'll clean up as an offensive staff, when that staff meeting's over, we'll kind of clean up our third down stuff that we want to make sure we're ready to present to the kids in our Wednesday meeting, because Wednesday will be really our heavy emphasis on third down in particular. A lot of third down on Wednesdays for us, okay? And we'll also begin what I call our field zone preparation. So I break the red zone down into 3 different categories. There's the high red zone, what we call the red zone. There's a white zone and there's a blue zone. So red, white, and blue. I'm an All-American guy. That's the way she goes. So goal line would be blue zone. That kind of gray area between the red zone and the blue zone where you're in goal line offense would be what we term the white zone. So we actually have a different plan for each one of those. So we'll start preparation on red zone once third down gets buttoned up so that we're ready to go with that, okay? And it's always different every week, right? Where does the red zone really start for a particular defense you're playing against? Some of it starts at the 15, sometimes they start at the 20, sometimes they don't start till after that. So we'll do that as well. So we get planning with that. We stop at 11 o'clock no matter where we're at, and we will be on practice plans and scripts. And you can see our special teams meeting, position meeting, which is obviously a little bit longer because we have to go through third down with our kids. That's going to be a big part of what we do. So practice would include a lot of, one team period would be first and second down again. One team period would be all third down. And then any extra time that we had or extra work that we needed on red zone or white zone or whatever, we would sneak a little bit of that into the practice as well, that we've got accomplished as an offensive staff leading into that practice. Okay. So there's our practice plan for Wednesday. We'll come back again, review the tape, grade the tape as an offensive staff. Again, cross things off the board, even third down things that we didn't like. We need to fix this. Let's move this guy over here. Let's short motion this. Let's run this out of cluster instead of whatever. So whatever we need to clean up, we will. Then we'll kind of put to bed the rest of our red zone, white zone, blue zone stuff. Okay, so we'll put together that package of stuff so that we're ready to go for the next day with that. And then if we have time, we'll start getting into what we call third down go zone calls. So once we cross the 50, one of the philosophies that we've had offensively in particular is if we cross the 50, at least if we get to the opponent's 40-yard line, there's a go zone based on analytics that we've kind of follow here, whether we're going to go for it on fourth down. And Coach Fickle will come in the headset, leading into, on second down, he'll say, listen, as the second down call's kind of running, he'll say, hey, Mike, 4's to go. And I know that if I get, right, I've got 2 calls to get a first down. I've got a third down call, and as long as it's not more than 4 yards, I'm going to get a fourth down call as well. So that kind of alters the way I think the game as well, as that information gets fed to me from Coach Fickle. So that's the third down go zone thing that you see there on the bottom of the screen. Thursdays for us, and it looks like I better speed this up a little bit, but Thursdays for us, okay, are a little bit of a jog through, okay? So we kind of have adapted the Chip Kelly Oregon style when he was at Oregon, where, they went Tuesday, Wednesday, really hard. Wednesday's a meat grinder for us. We're going at it now. And then Thursday, we kind of back off, and it's really, it's a walkthrough. there is a little bit of sweating, but there's not much, I'm telling you. And guys wear tennis shoes. They don't even wear their cleats to practice. So Thursday's practice for us is a really heavy emphasis on the run game in particular. And it's a walkthrough pace, but we're really concentrating on Thursday's practice on kind of getting on our run fits, who we're responsible for, making sure we're playing assignment football. Everybody and listen, we're integrating blitz into that. We're making sure everybody knows adjustments. We're integrating all that stuff in it. We do not throw the ball at all. The ball never leaves the quarterback's hand on any of this. So we kind of back the tempo down. Okay. But from an offensive staff standpoint, Thursdays we're going to spend on backed up against our own goal line, our 2-minute plan, end of game scenarios, whatever those happen to be, as far as, okay, we're 4-minute, obviously, offense where you're trying to run the clock out at the end and stay on the field offensively is a piece of that. Being down a score late in the game is a piece of that, all that stuff. And then kind of incorporating what we're going to do if we get into some of those go zone calls or fourth down calls. I break that down also. If it's 4th and 4, to 6, here's the calls. If it's 4th and 3 to 5, here's the calls. If it's 4th and 1 to 3, here's the calls, so that everybody knows. And all that, again, is being, as we're planning it, is being put up on the call sheet, which is the dry erase board that's in our office. And all the graduate assistants are basically doing to make the call sheet are taking that big grease or dry erase board and copying that onto a piece of paper. And that's what we use as our call sheet during the games. Okay. So, and then practice plans and scripts. We'll try to touch as many run game situations as we can. There is a little bit of fourth down call stuff that I kind of put in there. On Thursdays, just so you guys are aware, usually during the week, I make the other guys on the staff also help with scripting, not because I'm a lazy ass and don't want to do it myself, but again, it's an opportunity to help them learn our offense better, grow in our offense better, put themselves in a position where they could sit in my chair. So they do 7-on-7 and different things. I always do the team periods, but I split the rest of the scripting up amongst the rest of the staff, just so everybody's on the same page with that. But on Thursdays, I kind of take that back on myself, and I want to be in charge of the scripts on Thursday and Friday. Being the guy who's going to call the game, I want to make sure I've got the scenarios involved in there that I feel like the kids need to see, the things that we're really going to feature in the game. Those things are going to come from me. So I want to make sure I'm the one that's kind of coordinating all of that. And then you can see we go through the same schedule as far as practice and things like that. And then we get the coaches out of here Thursday after practice, although I don't usually go home right away. I kind of go back and kind of review the fourth down calls, if you will. That's just my own little thing that I do. Okay, so Friday practice, I'll speed up just a little bit. Our Friday practice stuff, we go on Fridays. Okay, so this is the day before the game. We got cleats on and we are going, wide receiver wise in particular, and on the perimeter of our offense. This is a passing game emphasis for us. We're getting after it on Fridays, so we're moving. All right, and they're sweating and they're spending a little energy for sure. And I didn't know when we first started doing this how much I'd really like it, and we started doing this I think 3 years ago. And I was always used to, right, you put the hay in the barn after Thursday. Thursday was kind of your kind of polish it all up. And then Friday you kind of walk through and, hey man, we got to save their energy. These guys are 18 years old and 19, 20 years old, whatever, or 17, 16 years old. These guys can go all day. And so Friday we crank it back up. And I think what it's the sense that I get from the players is that they don't feel quite so lethargic coming out of the gates on Saturday because they haven't had all that downtime. They've had a chance on Friday to kind of cut it loose and sweat it up a little bit. So anyway, Friday, we're going to finish the call sheet. Okay, so everything's going to get locked down on Friday morning when we come in. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of kick the rest of the staff out of the room, and they're going to go kind of do tips and reminders. I'm going to script offensive practice. There you can see where the players come in. We get out on the field. As I said, we go at it. We get over, we get showered, we get to the hotel. And then when we're at the hotel or the night before the game, it's an opportunity for me to sit down with the quarterbacks, okay, and go through game situations, okay? We're going to create the openers, and I always script usually 15-ish, sometimes it's 17, sometimes it's we script openers, okay? And listen, there's been times in a game where I've used 2 openers and I'm off the script. And there's been times where we've used them all. It just kind of depends on how the flow of the game is going and what's really going on. So, but I'll give the quarterback some say-so in that, some ownership in that. What do you like? What do you really like? Okay, you want to run it here, you want to throw it here. You want to start the game, try to make an explosive play. You want to pound their brains in. What do you want to do? Talk to me. So I'll kind of get a feel for where our quarterbacks are as we talk through the openers. I'll talk to quarterbacks through our third down plan. I'll talk to quarterbacks through our red zone plan and then our critical situation plan. So we'll go through all of those things on Friday night with the quarterbacks, with a coordinator kind of quarterback meeting. The quarterback coach is there as well. And it's just a free flow exchange and making sure that if they've got questions or there's things that aren't hitting their brain the right way, I don't want to be calling those things in the game. And this is a dialogue that I like to have with them throughout the entire week, but especially on Friday night. What don't you like about this? If I say, hey, I want this as an opener, and he kind of gets that look on his face like, yeah, okay, that's okay. Well, what don't you like about it? Explain to me why you don't like it. And if he doesn't like it, he's not comfortable with it, it's out. Okay, so no matter what I like or what I want to do with it in particular. So that's what we'll do on Friday nights leading up to the night before the game. And then obviously Saturday is payday, game day, and away we go again. So that's kind of the process. So Sunday, the process would start over again. And again, that's kind of the process that we've used here at Cincinnati, that is kind of taken this from, being with Coach Willingham at Stanford and then at Notre Dame years ago. He had a kind of a process that he followed, and then being with Coach Kelly and all the years that I've been with him, Brian Kelly, and he's got his own process, and I've kind of borrowed from here and stolen from here, and this is kind of how I put that together, and it's worked well for us here and led to a lot of success. And I hope there's some things in there that can help everybody. So I think with that, if there are some questions from anybody that I could answer, I'd be more than happy to do it. I hope I didn't run too long and bore anybody to death.
No, that's perfect. Really appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for sharing with us. And again, coaches, you can type your question in by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Type your question into me, and I can address it to Coach. So we'll go ahead and start with Q&A. We've had some questions come in here already. Coach asked, can you talk a little bit about when and why and how you use motion stacks and bunches?
Yeah, if we feel like we're playing against a really aggressive coverage team, let's say they're a bump man team, and if you want to sit back and throw 50-50 balls to fade routes, I like some of those sometimes too, but if there's some things that we can do formationally as far as getting ourselves some off coverage or giving our guys some space by using motion or stacks or clusters as a way of kind of making them define how they're going to defend those things, that's a way to kind of get our wide receivers off the line of scrimmage and running in green grass a little bit easier than having to bump and grind off of tight man coverage all the time. And we happen to see a lot of man, so that's kind of where that kind of stuff comes in, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Thanks, Coach. Next question, Coach, that was fantastic detail. Can you talk a little bit about what you want from your guys in the box during the game?
Yeah, I've got our quarterback coach is actually upset. I've called the game from the field since I've been the coordinator, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to necessarily do it. I know for me, I like to be able to look the offensive players in the eye on the sideline. I like the feel of the game from the field, so I can kind of get a sense of what really needs to be addressed, whether that's a boot in their ass or a lot of encouragement or whatever it happens to be. I just felt like being in the box was a little sterile for me. But from an information standpoint, I need a guy in the box, and Gino Gaduli, who is our quarterback coach and passing game coordinator, is upstairs for us. He kind of gives me an overview. I can see the run game stuff from the field pretty well because I always, wherever our signaler is, I'm probably 25 yards away from him down the sideline. So I've got an angle to watch the offensive line in the interior or what's going on. But what are they doing from a coverage standpoint? Have they changed the structure differently than what we've seen on tape? And you'd be amazed, right? We probably have one of the few running quarterbacks in the league. And if you've got one, you guys know that defenses tend to kind of tweak what they do because you got a quarterback who's mobile and athletic. And we rarely practice against what we see when the game starts. It's the craziest damn thing I've ever seen. So what I need is, okay, what adjustments do we have to make? I'll make the adjustments up front, but I need his eyes to help me in particular with how they're rotating safeties. Have they changed their coverage structure at all? Have they gone to more one high? Are they split safety still? Whatever that happens to be, so that we can adjust some of the calls that we have in the game plan to better fit what they're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, Coach. This was towards the beginning with PCI 12% or less. Do you mean you want 88% of the plays to be graded as plain clean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah. So if it's obviously we take the total number, like if you had 70 snaps in a game, we wanted 88% of those to not include something that's going to be detrimental to us offensively, whether that's a procedure penalty or a fumble, a turnover, a sack, those things that kind of go to not being successful.
Excellent. If something shows up in the game that if something shows up on the game that that didn't show up on film, what do you look for within that structure? How do you handle in-game communication between you and your coaches on the headset?
Yeah. So in between each series, we set right by position on the sideline, like most everybody else will. Okay. And the people that are talking in the headset are the quarterback. Okay. And Gino Gaduli, who's upstairs for me, our quarterback coach and passing game coordinator. And I'm kind of listening and chiming in. So we're having a three-way conversation, and Gino's communication to him is, what did you see on this? What made you, make some of the decisions that you made, so we can help steer him if we need to, or help him with, listen, you've got to slide the protection the other way. You've got to do this, or this is how we want to treat this. This is how we want to adjust this as we move forward. So all those discussions in between series are happening between the three of us. The offensive line is getting their own set of information from the box separately from that. Okay. So when I'm done with the quarterback, then I'm in the middle of the offensive line, making sure whatever we've discussed, if it's something that has to do with them, whether it be protection related or a run game adjustment or whatever, gets relayed to them. So that's kind of how we handle in-game communication, if you will.
Excellent. Thanks, Coach. For coaches who are not in capacity to work every day, what are the key points of game planning that you would choose to be ready for the game?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think first, I don't know that and again, I'll start by saying, I don't know that this process is necessary or definitely doesn't fit everybody who has, right? Not everybody's got the same. Guys got coaches coming from all over the place, right? He can only be here after work, or he can, God bless, I think what you need to do though, is the person who is maybe the coordinator or the person who's leading it, I think you need to establish yourself what things for you and your program are most important. For us, everything really revolves and starts with the run game. So the first thing that I'm going to do when we're planning is make sure we're building off of what we're going to do to run the ball. Okay. So off of that comes our RPO play action game, right? Off of that comes our screen game, our misdirection stuff that we're going to do. And then lastly, for us, my process comes drop back pass. Okay. So that's kind of for me, in my mindset, because we're kind of a run first team, we want to play that physical style. That's kind of how we do ours. Now, it could be different depending on, you know what I mean, what your philosophy would be and what things you got to make sure you get to the kids fastest that you know you're going to feature in the game.
Right. Thanks, Coach. What were the parameters for the different color zones that you had?
Yeah, so the red zone, right? A lot of defenses in today's football, at least that we see, don't necessarily start right at the 25 or the 20 with what they do. They may still be playing their field defense, if you will, or their base defensive structure up until like the 15-yard line. So let's say that they start at the 20. So from the 20, right? Let's say their red zone defense or the way that they structure themselves defensively for red zone starts at the 20. Okay. The red zone would carry me from the 20 to the 10. Okay. The white zone, as I would describe it, would really carry me from about the 9-yard line to inside the 5, usually around the 3-yard line. Okay. And then the blue zone would be just straight goal line stuff. If we got the ball down first and goal at the 3, we're going to get into 14 personnel and beat your brains in type of thing.
Excellent. Thanks, Coach. We'll do a few more here. How many run game concepts do you carry into a game?
Well, we're a big inside zone team. Okay. So that everything that we do starts and revolves around inside zone. But we need to have complements to it, obviously. Usually I want to have at least, right. And first off, it's hard for me to really answer because we do a lot off inside zone. We block it up. We read the defensive end where we run read zone. We skip our tight end out as a triple option threat type of deal. We bypass the end. So we run inside zone, but it has some different looks to it. So we'll carry all of those, if not most of those, into the game. We'll have an outside zone feature, whether that's pin and pull, whether that's straight outside zone feature where if they're kind of screwing themselves down, and heavy technique in our inside zone stuff where we can get the ball on the perimeter. Okay, a couple different ways to do that. And then we'll have some sort of gap scheme that we want to feature, whether that's counter, guard kick out, tight end trail pull counter, whether that's guard tackle pull counter, whether that's power, good old fashioned power. Nothing ever went wrong with that. I love that play. So whatever that happens to be. So we'll have a little piece of all that involved in what we're doing run game wise.
Excellent. How much does what you call change between the different zones?
It depends on what the defense does to change, to be honest with you. Most of the stuff until you get to about the 12-yard line, 15-yard line, they're probably going to be a lot more cover 0 man based or cover 1 man based when you get close to the goal line or from the 10-yard line in. All right. So down there, we would feature a lot of our, mesh rub concept stuff that we're doing, man beater stuff that we do, or try to do something formationally to create a matchup, right? Where if we've got a 6'6" tight end who can go up and get the ball and they've got a, 5'11" corner, we're going to try to find a way to formation and get that matchup so we can, throw the fade ball or whatever. So, it depends on what they're doing defensively, quite frankly. All right. But most of the time, what we see is more man or more aggressive coverage. So we'll want to do things in particular that attack that, whether that be mesh, whether that be isolating a guy in an individual route that we feel like he can win one-on-one, things along those lines.
Excellent. We'll wrap up Q&A. Coach, really appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us. And thanks to the coaches who logged on here this evening and participated with great questions. And thanks for listening in. Coach Denbrock, anything else you'd like to say to the coaches before we log off here?
No, I just say, let's all keep grinding and keep getting better at what we do. And I've always kind of tried to guide myself with this is all about the kids and giving them a chance and helping them along the way in their journey. And I hope you guys have great success. And I hope there was at least a little something off of what I shared today that everybody can use.
Excellent. Thanks, Coach. And coaches in attendance, we hope to see you in the next session, which starts here in about 20 minutes at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Coach Gary Goff, head coach at Valdosta State, building an offensive structure as an offensive coordinator. Again, thanks, Coach Denbrock, and thanks for the coaches attending. And have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.